All right, AEW Dynamite is coming to Indianapolis. They will be in town this evening. And, of course, you can see them on TNT, but better off you get over to the Fairgrounds Coliseum and actually see them yourself. And Cody and Brandi Rhodes are here. We could not be more excited to have you guys in here. Thanks for coming in, and thanks for bringing this to Indianapolis.
Oh, thank you. This is a major market for pro wrestling, so the fact that we get to do year one AEW stuff here is a big deal.
All right, so just for those folks that are kind of like me, now I'm a fan of your dad's.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I grew up in that kind of era.
Yeah.
That maybe not be familiar with AEW, but this just got started, got off the ground a couple of months ago. You had the help of Shad Khan and his son Tony, which is really cool because we know them from the Jacksonville Jaguars angle and everything. But Cody, you're the executive vice president of All Elite Wrestling, and Brandi, you are the chief brand officer of AEW. So how does that work with you guys being both sides of things? Because I know you're both in the ring too.
Well, I think we have the dual roles, and the way Tony positioned the company, where there's, multiple executive vice presidents to help with the creative, and then Brandi in the chief brand officer role. You just have to make sure you're covering both of them. I had a lifetime of wrestling experience, and I honestly didn't know what any of that education was for until I got this job. Like, I wouldn't have dreamed this would happen. Nothing like this has happened in wrestling in 2 decades. And this is all very similar to the job my father had at World Championship Wrestling and Jim Crockett Promotions. So I'm just in heaven. I've been having to pinch myself on a pretty regular basis the last 7 weeks just over the fact that this is all real. And there's always these moments that it becomes more real. It's just, you got to make sure you cover both roles. And I think we do that pretty well, right?
Basically, we don't sleep.
So exactly.
You learn very quickly how little sleep you can get by on, and now there's a new bar for me. I used to be an 8-hour person, and now it's like 4, maybe, if I'm lucky. And for people who've wanted an explanation of what happened to me, that's probably what happened.
That's what happened, huh?
I lost sleep.
I'm getting into micro nap world. I've heard that's a real thing. Like some of these, or maybe it's just something Bruce Wayne does in comics and it's not real. But I saw it in that one movie with what was it, The Long Shot? I keep calling it the wrong thing.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, she did a micro nap. I was like, maybe I can get into those. Eyes wide open, just asleep for like a few minutes at a time. I don't know if it's real, though.
Well, what do you guys try to get? Mark over here is like super fan, and again, I understand the athleticism that's involved. I understand the business sense, and I'm a fan that way also. Obviously, the main thing I've heard from different people is there's competition now, and that's part of the great thing. But what is the goal of AEW, and what are you guys bringing that that folks don't get?
Well, for us, the goal was always to be an alternative to WWE, whereas WWE has done some really great, wonderful stuff, and they're the house that built me, for sure. But for 18 years, almost 20 years, them being the only company kind of puts them in a position where people assume wrestling, pro wrestling is WWE. Whereas like this, I was reminded this morning on a couple of the media rounds, people talking about Bruiser and Crusher, and the wrestling is not one company's. It doesn't belong to any companies. Pro wrestling is a thing. It involves a ring, and then any number of promoters could do it. And in this case, with someone like Tony Khan and having the business acumen and the financial capital, nothing like that has happened. So many people have said, we'd love to compete with WWE. We'd love to be an alternative. It wasn't possible until he showed up and he did the best possible thing he could do. He let the wrestlers run a wrestling company. And a lot of the complaints about WWE the last 18 years are kind of the formula. People ask, like, oh, what are you doing differently? And, well, it's the stuff you've been mad about. We're turning it back around, and it's my type of wrestling. It's sports centric, it's old school, but it's also got a flavor of that complete West Coast wild, high spot oriented wrestling. It's everything. But right now we want to be an alternative. It's not a secret we're counter programmed on Wednesday nights, but we haven't been concerned about the counter programming, and for 7 weeks in a row we've beat WWE from a ratings and a demographic standpoint. So knock on wood, we keep that going, but that's because we're focused on ourselves.
So you guys mentioned there's been an adjustment period as far as the TV. You guys have been doing TV for almost 2 months now. As far as personally and stuff, getting stuff together, as far as any unexpected challenges that come with live TV every week now that you're more of a background person as well as an in-ring performer for both of you?
Well, live TV, the problem is time. Gerald Briscoe at WWE was so good about timing a show, and then Billy Kidman really good at it too. Tony stepped in on our very first pay-per-view and said, I'll do it, with no experience. Did it perfectly. It's unreal, like, to time a live show. When you have to hit a crossover, for example, you have to be on the air when you go into that second hour. You can't be a commercial break. Like, there's these wild formatting elements that come with, TNT and things of that nature, and he's nailed it. I don't know if you've anything on the live TV side of it that's been different for us.
Well, just the fact that it is live and that anything can happen, and you have to be ready to adjust on the fly and just adapt. Great example of that being the last pay-per-view. I watched my husband fall on his face on a steel stage, and I wasn't sure what was happening next after that because it's live. But it still was fantastic. It, for me, was the moment of the evening.
I knew what was happening. I was gonna get up.
Yeah, but I mean, you never know what's going to happen there. So it's as exciting for us as it is for the fans because you're literally getting something different every single time, whether planned or not.
And we're looking at Cody right now, and so the stitches are out.
Stitches are out. There's a little bit of a C up there. And I'll take these little strips off tomorrow, hopefully, and then we'll find out if I'm going to have a gnarly scar or not. I don't know if you guys ever played Street Fighter 2.
Yes.
I might get a Vega mask just
That'd
to
be
cover
awesome.
just to cover it up if it's real bad.
Even if it's just for one show.
Yeah, that would be cool. Maybe we just do one show. Yeah.
Guys do the video game tie-ins all the time.
That's true.
Hook up with Kenny and see what he can do.
Yeah, he would know. He plays his main in Street Fighter 2 as Cody, which is a weird thing, and it looks like me, and it's always wearing the suit and tie.
I'd be concerned.
He's got a weird fascination with that character and our dog. So, yeah. Kenny's part of the family. I think he does.
You saw that episode of BTE where he lured him in with a false sense of security and then winked at him.
Yeah, Pharaoh don't like anybody anymore. Yeah.
So as far as company-wise, what do you guys consider? You guys are still in the early stages of the company, but what do you consider the company's highlights so far? And then what are your long-term goals as far as like bigger capacity arenas at some point, or are you trying to go to like a network or something like that? Like as far as like a subscription-based pay-per-view thing or something, or what's the long-term goals?
Well, to start with highlights, for me, one of the biggest highlights of the company is being able to be one of the top debuts ever for TNT. In the last 5 years, we were number one for a debut show, and that's not small potatoes at all. I don't think anybody even had that as something that we wanted. We just wanted to have a fantastic debut show, and that set a really high bar for us, and really for TNT as well. I mean, you can't imagine how pleased they were with that. So I think that's, for me, one of the biggest highlights.
Oh, I mean, highlights, we've had some really, we do appeal to a little bit more hardcore fan base. We want to get everybody, but there's more of a hardcore wrestling fan base. And we've had some really revered matches already in a short time. Like, it's not my favorite match, but I know so many people enjoyed Dustin, me versus my brother, and I'm glad we were able to have that on the very first outing. It needed a match like that. I didn't know it would be mine, but that's a definite highlight for me. And as far as long term, she mentioned the biggest debut for TNT in 5 years. They were projecting much lower numbers, and we don't want to get arrogant or cocky about it. We want to be disciplined, and we want to be long form. But I also want to do something that other wrestling companies haven't done. When it comes to advertisements for our promotion and our brand, we're open for business. It's not something that we're really like narrowing it down and being really petty or picky with, and that's something that comes with that big debut. I think TNT and Warner Media has done a great job of, hey, you guys play your music and appeal to these hardcore fans. We'll do our best to get new fans and casual eyes because they're confident in the product, and they know our biggest star, aside from Chris Jericho, our biggest star is the fan base. That's the biggest other star on the road. That's the sixth man. The fact that our fans actually make noise during a show. That's why we don't pipe in our music into the live feed, because our fans are hot and loud, and they look like they'll be like that way forever. So Yeah, long term, I'd really just like to see it become must-see destination programming for wrestling fans and for TV viewers, people who still tune in, and have their weekly things that they want to hit.
Yeah, from a fan point, I can tell you, like, my wife and I turn it on and we don't change it because it's just every segment is can't miss usually, so it's really hard to turn off.
That's good.
And she's not the biggest wrestling fan, but
Yeah.
she's all about it. She's always asking, what happened or something like that. So she's all about it.
That's really good to hear.
Yeah.
I look at a minute-by-minute report, and when you see anything like dipping, they could be the most fluke dips of all, but like you get real like guarded. And now with only 7 weeks of ratings, we have no patterns. We really can't indicate anything, but we're all like, I don't know. The last week, the rating here for this, it's all a very unique game. We'll know more as data like accrues on the minute by minutes. And like I said, we had the wrestlers running a wrestling company, but we also surrounded ourselves by some really good analytical people and data folks who can, the Wild West wrestling scene, they can reel it in for us and say, hey, here's something people are gravitating towards,
So it's still about storyline and everything, right?
Oh, yeah.
You start this thing. I mean, here's square one,
Mm-hmm.
and you just let it play out from there, or do you have something in your mind? This is where we're going to eventually go to in 6 months or a year or 2 weeks.
Yeah, definitely the latter. We're long form and we work backwards. So we work we're going to do 4 major pay-per-views a year, an All Out, Double or Nothing, and 2 pay-per-views unnamed, Full Gear. And then there's 1 unnamed that we'll probably announce in the next 2 weeks. Those 4 pay-per-views that's how wrestling used to be. I mean, the golden age of wrestling in the 1980s and even late 70s, you looked at the finale and you worked backwards, and that's how we're doing it. We never want to be week to week. That's almost arrogant if you think you can do this week to week. You just, especially with young kids that we're responsible for now, like your Luchasauruses and Rihos and Britt Bakers, we're responsible to them now. And we want to do it all long form and disciplined without going hot shot or week to week.
Yeah, I appreciate it as a fan, too, with the 4 pay-per-views because there's not oversaturation, and also there's long-term storyline building or feuds and everything like that, so you can see big payoffs, and you're like, I have to see that, whereas if you have a pay-per-view every 2 weeks or something, you're like, oh, okay, they're just throwing stuff against the wall, but you guys really have planned it out, and I really appreciate it from a fan standpoint that you guys are doing a great job.
I hope I don't screw you, and then we announce like 5 more special, because special events or like streaming things.
But yeah, you guys are more sports oriented than a lot of other promotions. You guys have win-loss records and a lot of tournaments and everything like that. As far as the win-losses are concerned, are you guys planning to reset that once the calendar year flips over? So like an NFL season, everybody starts 0-0 all over again, or are you going to keep them running?
Yeah, we'll reset, I believe, when the year in January it'll be in Jacksonville. That's when the plan is to reset. But Tony, because I think you guys have talked to Tony, right? Have you talked to
another show?
Oh, okay,
but same station.
He's obsessed with numbers, so he had mentioned like, well, we'll do a reset, but then we'll have your overall record on there too. And I'm thinking, it's a lot of numbers. You get a lower third for somebody with their Twitter handle, their nickname, and then all these numbers. But he has a point. Your overall record will always be intact, but just to keep the top 5s for women, tag teams, and men's singles, every year it'll reset. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's a scoop. If I scoop that, sorry, guys.
I'd be remiss if I didn't ask about Culture City. You guys have a tie-in with that. Lucas Oil Stadium and Bankers Life Fieldhouse, they're both Culture City and stuff. Can you guys tell us a little more about it for people who may not know about what they do?
Yeah, it's actually a good day to talk about it because I have new news as of today with Culture City, which I'll get to momentarily. But, Culture City, their mission was so similar to ours in that wanting to be inclusive and diverse, and they have their message that they're driving, but it's one that fits so nicely with ours in that we say that AEW is for everyone. And if it truly is for everyone, it should include people who have certain disabilities. And a lot of times sensory inclusiveness is one that gets overlooked because you can't see it. So people were not coming to wrestling events because of anxiety, because they have autism, because of PTSD, because they felt like they wouldn't be taken care of if there were problems. And, wrestling shows, they're very loud. There's a lot of flashing lights. There's just a lot of sensory overload in general. So it's really not the environment that's ideal to try that out if you have sensitivities to these things. So Culture City coming on board to be partners with us was really a dream, because I've seen it play out in wrestling so many times where there were situations where people were struggling in those areas, but no one was prepared to deal with it or had any resources to use to help the situation. And in those cases, people have to go home. They spent their money, they bought the ticket. Why would they have to go home? And Culture City provides the answer to that, in that, like you said, the stadiums, the larger stadiums here now have sensory rooms, which is fantastic, and those are just places that people can go to get away from it all and kind of recuperate, and then when they're ready, go back to the action. But not all places have that. So what do you do in that case? So we'd been working with Culture City to provide sensory bags to all of the events, which those are equipped with pretty much everything you would need to kind of get yourself back together. So there's noise-canceling headphones, there are fidget tools, there are cue cards for people who are nonverbal to express themselves and let us know how we're feeling. And I've been working since starting to work together with them on getting those bags to be available to us for every single show. And as of tomorrow, Wednesday in Indy, they are available at every single show. So every show is now sensory inclusive.
Good for
awesome.
you.
Yeah. That's really huge, because there's so many people who've been wanting to be on board with this and patiently waiting because they maybe couldn't travel to some of our events that we were advertising as inclusive. So now every time we come to you, you'll know, and here, in Indy, you'll know that there are the bags there. There are people there that care. So come on, and you're welcome. And we're doing everything that we can to get more buildings to activate those rooms. But until then, we've got the bags.
That's fantastic. That's just awesome, I think.
I got a question as far as when we start to get more and more popular, getting people into wrestling. You were a figure skater. How does a figure skater go into wrestling? I mean, obviously Cody is born into wrestling, but how do you get into it?
So I figure skated for 17 years, and I grew up in Michigan. I got tired of the cold and ended up moving to Miami. And in Miami, I decided that I was going to be a model, because that's the life. You go to the palm trees and the warmth, and I'm going to be a model. So that's what I did. And wrestling found me. There was a period of time in which that's what they were scouting, were models to become trained to become wrestlers. So that's exactly what I was. I was a few years removed from my figure skating career, but I still had that knack to want to perform that you can't get with modeling. So when I was approached on it, it seemed like the absolute perfect fit, being able to be athletic and being able to perform still and learn some new skills. So that's that one. I might be I think I am the only figure skater turned wrestler as of now.
But it's open. It's open for others.
Yeah, I feel like it's open for others. I feel like, if Michelle Kwan or,
Tanya Harding, and you can get into that.
Hold on.
She boxed.
I don't know. Tanya Harding is a force to be reckoned with. I don't know if we could control Tanya Harding.
Can't control a lot of people.
Decided to wrestle. She might literally.
Got to just unleash them.
The other thing that's kind of weird is you guys are in this week, and of course the Colts just played the Jaguars, and we were talking about Tony Khan, and then the Indiana Hoosiers play some school from up north down in Bloomington this weekend. Any feelings about that game at all? Since you are a Wolverine.
I am a Wolverine. Yeah.
You're not a good Wolverine.
Oh,
though.
I'm a great Wolverine.
No, she won't.
Should you actually be converted into a Buckeye?
Oh, never. There's no way in
He's
the
from
world.
Ohio State. That's
Yeah.
why.
There's no way in the world.
The Buckeye fandom really upsets us.
The Buckeye fandom is obnoxious, and let me tell you why. You are included. You are obnoxious.
Okay, that's
but
fine.
so is my brother, the worst. Since I went to the University of Michigan, he suddenly became a Buckeye fan. How does that happen?
Does he still live up there?
Yeah.
Oh, so there's hope. We wrote off the entire state.
Oh no, my brother is the single Buckeye fan in the heart of Michigan, just doing the most to do the worst.
I think what makes me really mad about the Buckeye fandom this year is just the simple fact that they're really good. They're really good. This isn't last season, especially I'm a UGA fan.
Okay.
So I know where we're heading, and I know the conversation that's coming up. And man, I need Ohio State to take a loss. I need them. And what do they have left? Michigan, and then is it Penn State?
Penn State this week.
Guess somebody, because these are Penn State to me seems like it's Michigan's more the trap game perhaps, but man, the Ohio State fandom. One of our security members with Atlas Security is a diehard Buckeye guy, and it's just like
it's the most abundant thing about him too. Everything else about him is fantastic.
But they're really good this year.
He's a nice person, police officer, but then he opens his mouth and does an OH, and
oh God. Yeah, well, she's also not a good. This is why I said you're not a good Michigan fan. Is because she won't watch, and when she does, they do lose. So it's probably better. I watch like for her, like they're doing all right, like. But yeah, she's not a good Michigan fan.
Hey, if Michigan beats Ohio State,
that will happen in 10 years, 15 years.
If it happens this time, I will absolutely.
What are you setting yourself up here?
I don't know where I'm going. I don't know where I'm going. I want it to be good for me, and I'm thinking of things that are good for me.
Yeah, it's already, the win is already good for
all right,
you.
how about we do this the next show? If when Ohio State wins the game,
Did you hear that?
we put you in a scarlet and gray outfit.
That's very fair. But then you would have to, if Michigan wins, you would have to wear the.
I'll be your ring guy or something. I'll come out.
I think we just need a social media picture of you just in the blue and maize, or how do they say maize and blue? Yeah,
Close.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
we can find that.
Up.
So you have to wear an Ohio State
There's
jersey.
lots of homeless guys with those colors on down on the street. I can find that real easy.
This is why. See.
No, but I have
talking
faith in Michigan. I'm not even the biggest Wolverine, but I have faith. I just can't. Ohio State's got to be stopped at this point, and I need it more for my Bulldogs than anybody. I just can't. I just don't believe.
They've met you for 15 minutes, and they already know you're obnoxious and everything like
exactly.
that. Exactly.
They nailed it. It's like they did research on me instead of me on them. It's funny. Thank you guys for being here, really. And seriously, bringing this to Indianapolis is very cool for our place. Being at the Fairgrounds Coliseum, it is a fabulous addition, and we don't use it enough over there. We do some hockey there. We do some basketball games over there, and then obviously the state fair stuff and everything. But it is a perfect venue. So please come back and use that as often as you want, because this is just on an upward trend, and we're glad to be a part of it right here in Indianapolis, because like you said, there's a great fan base for it here.
Yeah, for sure.
We're looking forward to it. Tomorrow night's going to be a fantastic experience for anybody who comes out, and it'll be if you're on the fence about curious about this wrestling stuff, and I don't know what I should think of it, come to the show. It's a guaranteed hook. Guaranteed. It's one of those. It's like The Mandalorian. Watch it. Guaranteed. You're hooked.
I'm not going to get on a Mandalorian rant. It's so good though. I don't know if you guys are Star Wars fans. I know we're wrapping it up, but God, for so long we needed something, and now Disney's giving us weekly content, and these people who are complaining about Kathleen Kennedy and all Dave Filoni, I just need them to stop. Like, enjoy this time. Enjoy.
Baby
Yoda.
Baby Yoda's the cutest thing ever. I mean, that's like the Christmas gift this year, right?
It's
Baby Groot, but better.
My sister mentioned it. She was like, it's a lot like Baby Groot. I was like, I didn't even see it, but now I'll do anything for Baby Yoda. I just changed my Twitter profile to Baby Yoda.
Did you change your picture to
Yeah, because the internet's so divisive and full of just garbage and negativity. Like, man, we can agree on Baby Yoda, I think. I really do. It's
Nobody
a good.
better say a damn bad thing about Baby Yoda.
Yeah.
That's like saying
Unless
a bad
he
thing
wears
about Pharaoh.
blue and yellow, and then we can bash him.
My God.
So that would be horrible.
I could tell just from looking at Baby Yoda, he's not an Ohio State fan. He would be like one of those weird like Notre Dame fans, though, like a team that's like, come on, there's no real shot here, guys. Come on,
Fan for some
yeah, come on, well, Baby Yoda.
Come back and we'll talk anything but wrestling too. This has been a blast.
Thank you
very much, you guys.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
There you go. Cody and Brandi Rhodes, and again at the Fairgrounds Coliseum, you can get your tickets at the box office.